Our next speaker on the subject of innovating for the future after the professor is Kimihide Ando, who's the CEO for Pakistan and Senior Vice President of the Mitsubishi Corporation of Japan. He's also a member of the Managing Committee at the OICCI.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Professor Atul Rahman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My first interaction with Pakistan started in mid-90s, so it's like 20 years I've been interacting with Pakistan. And out of 20 years, 12 years I'm stationed in Karachi. So while you stay in such long period of Pakistan, you get into awkward moment, and today is a little bit awkward moment because making speech after Dr. Atul Rahman and before Jacqueline is something you are not so comfortable in. But nevertheless, maybe I was allowed to speak in front of you after Dr. Atul Rahman and before Jacqueline. Not because I'm the country head of Mitsubishi Corporation, but hopefully I am one of the foreigners who really loves Pakistan. And also as managing committee member of Overseas Investors Chambers of Commerce and Industries, OICCI, where today I represent. I also happen to be the president of 2013 of the OICCI. So please allow me some time to speak on Pakistan. There are draft here written by Secretary General of OICCI, Abdul Alim, and he's a very thorough gentleman. I respect him so much, but I hope, I think I don't lead this because rather not leading it, I would like to speak from my heart. First of all, let me introduce what is OICCI is. OICCI is established in 1860, that's like 160 years ago, while here it was British India. And clearly it is the oldest chamber. What happens that history says that 3 British merchants decided to put up the Chamber of Commerce in Indian subcontinent. And that was the original of the Overseas Investors Chamber of Commerce. 1947, Pakistan and India separated, 1947. It so happened that the headquarters of OICCI was in Karachi. So we stayed that way. So we don't have the overseas chambers in India. And this is the oldest chamber in Indian subcontinent. 190 members. You name any multinationals operating in Pakistan, they are all members. IBM, Mitsubishi, Indus Motors, Procter & Gamble, Stellantis, you name it. And we don't represent specific industries, but actually we believe that we are true representation of foreign investment in the total. So we speak, and usually people like Professor Atul Rahman listen to us. Good. That's what we are. And how we view Pakistan. The good example is that among our members, out of our profit, we reinvest. And annually, we reinvest about 1.5 billion US dollars annually among members. And you know that currently foreign direct investment in Pakistan is 2 billion plus minus. So that's how we are committed. And also our member companies are pretty much drawing attention of a global headquarters because Pakistan happened to be one of the most fast growing market in the world. Good. And let me discuss on what I do. on top of being a country head of Mitsubishi, what my major task is to how to brand and how to market Pakistan. It's not that I market something which I want to sell to Pakistan, but on the other hand, what I have to do right now here is to market and brand Pakistan, because you know that what we have in struggle in Pakistan is there is perception gap. What we are and what we've been seeing from outside are different. So whatever you have to do here, you have to fight with the perception gap. And my 8 years of being country head of Pakistan is continuous battle, continuous struggle of how to rightly portray Pakistan. And few tips that is so far successful in me, which I will share it with you right now, is we tend to think that we tend to present Pakistan in a way like, okay, we have 200 million populations. We are huge. That's one way of presenting the things, but then that the answer from the outsider comes in like 200 million people, but what is the GDP average of Pakistan? It turns out to be 1,400 US dollars or plus minus. And nowadays, what I'm telling to the people in Japan and those people who are interested to coming over to Pakistan is total population is 200 million people, but just forget about it for a second. Pakistan is a country of 70 million middle class people, and whose average capacity, whose average GDP is somewhere around 3,000 US dollars per capita. Then people start thinking different ways, okay. And on top of it, there is 130 million populations queuing up to join those 70 million peoples. If you portray in such a manner, then the people will start listening. I mean, how many countries do we have? 70 million population with $3,000 average and huge potential queuing up. That's one thing. And obviously, people tend to like keywords like after this session, we will be having a short sessions about managing talent in VUCA era, VUCA. We tend to like those abbreviations. I start using abbreviation, which you can start using it right now, because I will not ask you for the copyright or anything. You tell people, why don't you start telling people that Pakistan is DDT? DDT. It's not, Dr. Atul Rahman, it's not what is it? DDT is dichlorodenylchloroethane, right? It's not the DDT, it's demography, democracy, and talent. Demography, I don't think I have to lecture you. I mean, that you've been hearing a lot and you are talking a lot on the demography. Democracy, you have to be aware that Pakistan is democratically more advanced than Thailand. We are struggling, but rest assured, and you watch Thailand, I mean, Pakistan is democratically advanced than Thailand. So be confident about it. And talent, being one of those foreign investors, and I interact with so many country heads of multinationals. Not even once I hear complaint from country head of the foreign investors that we have difficulty in finding talents. Yesterday I was discussing with one of those Fulbright alumni, and I was really surprised to know that PhD and masters alone Pakistan is sending every year 200 students to Fulbright. And these peoples, after getting educations, at least has to come back and serve the country for 2-3 years. So those kind of talents, and you have the LAMs and IB, of course. I mean, that the education is not perfect here. I mean, there are so many things we need to do more. Dr. Atarur Rahman, he cannot take vacation for some time. That's why he is working day and night, trying to make Pakistan even better. But let us also see the positive side also, that we are not that bad. I have many things to do, but for the sake of the time, I think, there is one thing. OICCI, member companies pays 1/3 of total tax revenue of Pakistan. If 190 member companies can pay 1/3 of the total revenue of Pakistan, if the rest of the Pakistan do it somewhat different, I think most of the Pakistani problem can start solving. Thank you very much.
Could I take that from you? Yep. Thank you very much.